Hi, friends. Bob Bordone here, along with my co-author and friend, Dr. Joelle Salinas. Hey, Joelle, how's it going?
Hi, excited.
And we are here. We're going to talk about some insights from our upcoming book called Conflict Resilience, Negotiating Disagreement Without Giving Up or Giving In. So today we're going to take on a really challenging negotiation for a lot of people. And we're going to bring in the brain science involved, along with some advice, and we're going to have some fun because this is a topic that matters to a lot of people, particularly in an inflationary environment. And it's how to ask for a raise. But Joelle, we're going to
hmm
make it a little more complicated, right? Because we're taking this from the perspective of people who tend to be people pleasers, which I think makes it harder, don't you think?
as a self-identified people pleaser, the answer to that question is yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah, I know, I know. I think my long history is to be a people pleaser, but I think as I've done this work more,
You've really overcome it, Bob.
I've overcome it.
You've really overcome it.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of the time, a lot of the time. Although I gotta tell you, asking for a raise can be challenging. I have to watch some of my own
Yeah.
videos and maybe listen to your voice in my head in order to be able to do it better.
Yeah. No, I have to like when I do stuff like that, I have to like write a script for myself and like rehearse it and figure it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard. Well, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to look at a very fun clip from SNL that
Mhm.
has Josh Brolin, who's like fine, and then also Ariana Grande and Bowen Yang. So let's take a quick look, and then, Joelle, I want to hear your wisdom on this.
How about we try a role play exercise? Charlie, can you play Serafina's boss?
Defo, unless someone else wants to. Otherwise, yes. Or whatever's fine.
Serafina, let's say Charlie is your boss. Try asking him for a raise.
Okay.
Okay, hi. I need a raise.
No, totally. I'll give you that raise. Sorry, I'm such a bad boss. You can have my job.
Sometimes it just feels so much easier to apologize when you're with because there's that tension, right, that you feel in your body that you've done something wrong or that you're about to do something wrong. And some of us have that defense mechanism of if I just fess up to have done something wrong, I can release the tension and not worry about it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking
Even if you didn't do
about
anything wrong.
she
Even
didn't
if
do
you didn't
anything
do
wrong.
anything.
She didn't do anything wrong. Well, it's interesting if I think about in our book, I think this is the fawn response, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I again, like I said, this is like I felt like I was being personally attacked because it is basically me. This is my default response in a lot of situations is the fawn, which is just like, you're so great, you're so great, oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the time I really mean it. I really do mean it, but at the same time, it's also a way that I can diffuse a really tense situation. It's just sort of my fallback. And it
Yeah.
worked, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, it's making it easier. Although I imagine, this poor character that Ariana Grande is playing probably was like up all night. I mean, in this skit, right, she's come to a group that's supposed to help her to assert, and she like gets one line in, and she's in apology land.
You're great. I'm doing bad as an employee. You should totally fire me.
No. You're so amazing. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm so sorry. I love you.
I love you too. Sorry, I'm dumb.
No, I'm dumb. You're smart.
No, you're so smart.
We are both
smart and stupid.
Yeah, I feel like I've done the I love you on accident
CEO of
before.
the company. And look, you're both so amazing. You should have my job. I don't deserve it. I'm resigning.
All right, stop. What happened there was bad. In that exercise, everyone lost their job.
It's not off from what can happen, right, when everybody is super avoidant.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Joelle, because I mean, it's
Yeah.
fun to watch and it's a little painful to the degree it's close to real life, but like
Uh-huh.
what is like in those moments, right? When like we could be planful and then suddenly it's like turning into a comedy except it's real life. Like what's going on?
Well, when we feel the threat, we have this rising tension, and our kind of more deliberative processes of our brain are slowly becoming less active because more of this fight flight emotional kind of limbic system area starts to take on more and more. And so we end up falling back to what we talk about kind of in our book, these default reactions, like the fawn, one of the many five, the five Fs.
Yeah.
Uh, and we just fall on it. And
Yeah.
it's there's this kind of short term kind of like reward of getting rid of the bad feeling that comes from it. But it is transactional in that in the minute you feel a little bit better, but in the long term, it's not going to serve you and it's not going to serve the other person. So the fact that like everybody lost their job in that situation is not too far from the truth, except that probably would have happened in like many months or years. It's like a
Yeah.
slow like trail of tears.
Well, the other thing, Joel, is that usually, unfortunately, I think it's like there's the pleaser, and then there's the boss on the other side who's like quite ready to say no. So,
Hmm.
I mean, if you're in a room of like everyone in a fawn mode, I guess that's what it ends up in. But I know like a lot of the times it's like the other person, I mean, literally, you say one thing and they're like, no, and you're like, okay, I'm so sorry. And then you're like writing in your journal at night, right? Like, I've done
Yeah,
better.
I mean when the interests aren't aligned, it's just way too easy to just go along when someone's fawning. It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to ask you that question. It's way too easy to be like, great, let's
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah. But let me ask you, right? You use this big term, I think you said
Oh,
limbic irritability. Like, for like people like me who are simple and just want to know what like is that inevitable? Is there something I could do? Am I just like my brain's taken over? Oh well. Like what do I do?
no, not at all. I mean, it is something you have to work actively against. You have to be really aware of when these situations are happening. We talk about pausing in situations like that, really having this metacognition or reflecting on what's going on in your body, reflecting on the situation, what's happening, and then use that beat to start to get those more frontal networks back online, those frontal parietal networks, these like all these things that help with planning, organization, attention, judgment, all of those brain areas and those networks, you can enlist them on your side to think through the situation and think for yourself, actually, me just saying, you're so great, I love you, doesn't really serve me because let's say that they're asking for a raise, but maybe you are about to lose your apartment or your home because you're not getting paid enough or you don't have ends meet or you're like really significant debt. So if you really focus on that, what do I get out of this? Like the risk of upsetting somebody is not as great as the reward of being able to pay my rent or getting that
Yeah.
raise. That
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
helps to direct your attention and all of your brain networks towards a very specific goal, that bigger,
Yeah.
better offer.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this though, right? Because I mean,
Hmm.
this is helpful for the font people, but I think another domain is the freeze. So like
Mm.
I'm thinking like you just said, oh, if you pause for a second and then it goes to what did you say? The frontal parietal something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like what if I'm sitting there and I'm just like, but here's what happens. It doesn't go to the frontal parietal. I just freeze. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that
What do I
freeze
do then?
response. Yeah, that freeze response, it can happen. Also guilty of freeze response, where you're just kind of sitting there and it's just you're nothing's processing. It's the like the blue screen of death, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah, yeah. The blue screen of death. The blue screen of
yeah,
death.
the
What do I
old
do if
blue
I'm a
screen of
blue
death.
screen of death person though?
Yeah, there are some techniques in those situations too. The first thing is really to get yourself back in your body
Hmm.
as you're like as your soul is like leaving you. You
Okay.
uh some techniques that people have is focusing on the senses. So
Hmm.
name like three colors, three smells, three textures, three
Hmm.
sounds. And that
Hmm.
starts to bring you back. Or just
Hmm.
that metacognition, that kind of mindfulness of thinking about the feeling of your socks in on your feet, in your feet, in your shoes, your tongue in your mouth. That slowly starts to bring you back into your body. So the pause, it was really meant to be actually quite active. It's not meant to be relaxing. It's meant to be an
Hmm.
active process of take a breath and starting to like redirect your attention on something that isn't the fear or the threat, which is taking all of your attention away already.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I think like so many of the things that I teach and talk about, right, are what happens like after that
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
moment. And gosh, if you're interested in that, you should both watch this video and also buy our book because our upcoming book on conflict resilience gives you a lot of those tactics. But what's so fun about and challenging and tough about this clip is you could have lots of scripts, but I guess in that moment when your brain goes offline, right?
Mm-hmm.
We also need some tools so that we aren't just fawning all over or freezing or giving up our job.
You gotta snap
Let me,
out of it. Yeah,
you
it's
got
like
to step out of it.
hypnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, it's not what we see in this clip for sure,
mm-hmm.
but what about the person who's like, as soon as they hear, sorry, there's money in the budget, they say, well, I deserve this and you should do it for me. And so kind of someone who's moving into that aggressive or fight tendency, what's going on
Mm-hmm.
there? What can they do?
I mean, it's similar in that your brain is getting on high alert. It's just the response is different than the avoidance, like bring the negativity or the negative feeling away by drawing away from it. It's
Hmm.
making that negative feeling go away by doing something to kind of release the tension immediately.
Hmm.
And it is actually quite similar. It is taking that moment to pause or take a break. Sometimes it's a matter of taking a walk or kind of rescheduling if you're really, really revved up, like really kind of flushed. Some
Yeah.
people will actually reset their nervous system by splashing cold water in their face. There is this element of being aware of what you're doing and stopping yourself from saying or doing something that you're going to regret or doesn't really serve you. But once you're yelling and screaming, it's kind of a little late to salvage a situation in the moment. So you
Yeah.
want to catch yourself as like you feel your muscles contracting, your breath's getting more shallow. You might get these thoughts of like, I just want to punch this person, and then be like, oh, when I start to have violent thoughts about the person across from me, that means I need to take a moment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like part of what I'm hearing is some of the intervention is similar because some of what's
Mm-hmm.
going on in the brain is similar in terms of defaults. It's just what people's
Mm-hmm.
defaults are. Although there's a way in which maybe if you tend to be more escalatory, it might be more than just a momentary pause. I mean, I hear you saying maybe take a break or
Mm-hmm.
unless the negotiation is at the sink, you can't splash water in your face, right? It has to say, let's take a break. And that maybe for someone whose instinct is fighting, they might
Mm-hmm.
need a little bit more space than the pause. Or am I mishearing that?
No, that's correct. And I mean, there are ways to slowly activate that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest nervous system that can help. Some people will put pressure on their eyes.
Hmm.
So if you take a break or walk pressure on your eyes, the slow exhales out can also
Hmm.
help. Um, some people will just kind of, I mean, bear down. I mean, you don't want to bear down in the middle of the conversation, but if you take a moment, just like do things that will help to lower that really just taking control over your physical
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think one of the key things that I'm hearing, and that is really, I think, resonant and consistent from the kind of stuff from a negotiation perspective, we would say, is increasing of the self-awareness. And what you're really saying, Joelle, is it's really the self-awareness of our body
Mm-hmm.
and gaining more control of that. And then I think the other thing that maybe I might also add in this is that so many times in that moment, we only see one or two choices.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that taking of a pause helps us see that there's a whole set of behavioral moves that can lock us out of the either or and help us see a both and possibility. I can be both quite sensitive to your needs and concerns and also sensitive to my own needs and concerns.
Yeah,
Uh,
like my
yeah.
last point on it is really you're not gonna succeed at this at the first time. I mean, if you
Mm-mm.
do, great, but really it's gonna take practice and it really helps to do some drills with somebody else. Like really, you can write what's happening in your body or like what typically happens or describe out loud to say, when I ask for a raise, I feel my heart rate increase, I feel my chest tighten, and you can start to put yourself into that situation, you're feeling that distress, and you can start to enlist some of those techniques in the moment so that way you are much more practiced in it and much
Mm.
more likely to use them when you're in the moment.
Yeah, no, this is incredibly helpful. And so, as I think about folks who are watching this, right, and wondering how do I ask for a raise, how do I get to these defaults? Here's some thoughts, right? First, Our upcoming book, Conflict Resilience, Negotiating Disagreement Without Giving Up or Giving In, you should order it because it is practical, it is handy. It's going to give you the tools to become more mindful, to prepare, and to practice. Second thing, though, I think you're saying, which is so important, is all of us can improve, um, but it does take a lot of practice. Sometimes people say, well, this is just how I am. And we have defaults, but we can grow. And I guess maybe the third thing I'm hearing is be gentle with yourself in that process.
Mm, be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
Self-love, best love.
Self-love matters here.
Hmm.
So we want to extend an opportunity for you to do some people pleasing for us, but also meet your interests. Before you leave this, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Please ring the bell. Please like this video. And please, please, please think about ordering our book, Conflict Resilience. It's available now on pre-order at wherever you like to buy your books. Thanks for watching. Okay, it's not difficult to keep watching. Click, click.